Let's talk about Antarctica. It's the only continent on our entire planet with no country, no government, and not a single native person. And yet, just beneath that quiet frozen surface, there's this incredibly complex story of rivalry, exploration, and a really fragile global agreement that's holding everything together. So today, we're going to try and uncover the secrets of the world's last great wilderness.
So the big question is, who's actually in charge down there? It's a continent claimed by a whole bunch of countries, but officially it's owned by no one. Now, how does that even work? How can so many nations claim a piece of it, but nobody owns it? Well, that's the great mystery we're diving into.
All right, here's our game plan. First, we'll unpack the continent's big contradictions. Then, we'll jump in a time machine to see the wild race for the South. After that, we'll see how a huge global compromise basically saved Antarctica and turned it into a hub for science. And finally, we'll look ahead to the very uncertain future it's facing.
Okay, first things first. To understand the politics, you have to understand the place itself. I mean, why is this enormous continent completely empty of people? The answer's pretty simple. It's a land of extremes, a place where nature is, well, completely in charge.
And when I say extreme, I really mean it. It's the coldest place on Earth. We're talking temperatures that can plunge to minus 89 degrees Celsius. It's the windiest, with blizzards hitting 300 kilometers per hour. And here's a weird one, it's also the driest. Yep, it's technically a polar desert. So it's really no surprise that no one ever settled there. It's just brutal.
But here's the crazy part. Even though it's this incredibly harsh, empty place, for centuries, it's been this prize that powerful nations have desperately wanted a piece of. Right now, 7 different countries have staked a claim to this frozen wilderness, and that is the central contradiction of Antarctica.
So how on earth did we get here? How did a continent at the very bottom of the world become a political battleground? Well, to answer that, we've got to rewind the clock and look back at the chaotic race for the South.
The idea of a great southern landmass haunted maps for thousands of years. Way back in ancient Greece, Aristotle theorized there had to be an Antarctos to balance the globe. For centuries, it was just a big mystery, a blank spot on the map. But then, in 1895, a Norwegian crew finally did it. They set foot on the ice, and a brand new chapter in history began.
And this really shows you how obsessed people were with being first. There's this fantastic little story from that landing where 2 guys from the same boat immediately started arguing over whose foot hit the ice a split second earlier. Can you even imagine?
So, that early age of brave explorers and epic adventures, well, it didn't last long. It quickly turned from a story of discovery into one of politics and power. It was a straight-up land grab, with nations literally carving Antarctica into wedge-shaped pieces on a map.
And here are the 7 nations that staked those claims. As you can see, Australia grabbed the biggest slice of the pie, a whopping 42%. But take a look at that peninsula on the west. That's where things get really messy. You've got the UK, Chile, and Argentina all claiming the exact same piece of land, a major source of tension, to say the least. And believe it or not, the politics were even messier than they looked. You basically had this little club of 4 countries, Australia, France, New Zealand, and Norway, who all agreed to recognize each other's claims. But that thorny, overlapping section, nobody wanted to touch it. It was a tangled political web just waiting for a conflict.
Just as all these tensions were simmering, the Cold War kicked off. And, of course, its long shadow reached all the way to the South Pole. Suddenly, this frozen, remote continent became another chessboard for the United States and the Soviet Union in their global struggle for power. All of a sudden, these scientific research bases started popping up all over the ice, often built suspiciously close to each other. Let's be real. These were more than just labs. They were strategic footholds, listening posts in an atmosphere of deep paranoia, all designed to plant a flag and solidify a claim. But then, right in the middle of all that Cold War tension, something kind of miraculous happened. 12 nations, including the US and the Soviet Union, actually came together and signed the Antarctic Treaty. This was a landmark deal. It basically transformed the continent from a potential battlefield into a global park dedicated to peace and science.
Now, the absolute genius of the treaty was that it didn't try to solve the ownership problem. That would have been impossible. Instead, it just hit the pause button. It literally put all the territorial claims on ice. They didn't disappear, they were just frozen in time, suspended for as long as the treaty was in effect.
And just like that, with the stroke of a pen, the whole game changed.
Antarctica was no longer a prize to be won. It became the world's largest shared laboratory, a place where scientists from anywhere could work together to unlock the secrets of our planet.
But not everyone was on board right away. India, for example, was a leading voice against the treaty. They saw it as an exclusive club for rich countries to control the continent and its potential resources. India's argument was, hey, this place and whatever's in it should be shared by all of humanity, not just a select few.
So what did they do? In 1981, India launched a secret expedition. They just showed up, completely unannounced. The rest of the world basically found out when this dramatic magazine headline hit the newsstands. It was such a bold move, a scientific mission that was also a huge political statement.
But then, in a twist that surprised everyone, India did a complete 180. Just 2 years after their secret mission, they signed the Antarctic Treaty, joining the very club they had so fiercely criticized. Today, India is a major scientific force down there, and they even made a key discovery linking Antarctica's geology to the fault lines of the Indian subcontinent.
So this spirit of cooperation has defined Antarctica for over 60 years, but now it's facing its biggest challenge yet. Those frozen political claims are starting to thaw, and a new kind of race for the continent's resources could be about to begin.
See, back in 1991, the international community added an update called the Madrid Protocol. This was a big deal. It officially designated the continent a natural reserve devoted to peace and science, and, crucially, it banned all mining and drilling activities.
But here's the catch. Beneath all that ice lies a potential treasure trove. Some Russian estimates suggest there could be 500 times billion barrels of oil and gas down there. We're talking trillions of dollars. And as the world's appetite for energy just keeps growing, the pressure to tap into that frozen fortune is becoming pretty intense.
And the clock is ticking. In the year 2048, that ban on mining and drilling from the Madrid Protocol is up for review. Any of the key member countries can call for changes, and just like that, the fate of Antarctica will once again hang in the balance.
So we're left with this massive question. With those old claims ready to unfreeze and trillions of dollars in resources on the table, what's going to happen to the world's last untouched continent after 2048? Will we continue to protect this pristine wilderness, or will we give in to the lure of its hidden riches? The choices we all make in the coming years will decide the future of the last great wilderness on Earth.